Hey, this is Not the Girl Next Door show, and I have a special today. I have Skunk Manhattan on the line with us. How are you doing, Skunk? How have you been?
Great. Good to talk to you again.
I know. We were just saying it's probably been about a year since we last spoke, and I know you're a busy guy. I always have a lot of projects going on. I know you have Good Rogering and Runescarred. What do you have? Let's just jump right into it. What do you have going on right now?
Yeah, quite a bit. I think last year when we talked, I don't know. I think Runescarred was up and running, but I've started playing. I just did a tour in October with a band called the Invincible Czars, which has been kind of a staple of Austin. It's a name that a lot of people know. I've kind of always seen the name, and they kind of started as a kind of a wacky, eclectic rock band, like the Good Rogering, has kind of dipped our toes in that pool many times, but strangely, we had never really played together or anything, and then they got into doing I always remember the name because they would play at Christmas time they would do rock and kind of just various different styles of the Nutcracker and stuff like this, and they started doing Tchaikovsky's 1812 for July 4th and stuff like that. So I kind of knew the name from that stuff, and then they started writing original scores to silent films and touring on that. And it so happens the bass player, it's basically he's been running the show from the get-go. That's kind of his baby. So the bass player, Josh Robbins from Runescarred, that's his thing. We got to know each other, hit it off, and they needed a guy for this last tour, and so that was me. But,
so are they...
That was super fun. Yeah. Super fun, totally different, because I've always played classical piano and been into soundtrack music and that kind of stuff too. And this is the first time that I've really done a project kind of outside of the, more standard guitar rock, band formula. You're actually, we played a lot of Alamo draft houses and art houses and theaters where we're actually playing to the film on the screen. So it was an interesting process of seeing how they work and how that whole thing works. And I had a blast. And so that group, the Invincible Czars, is kind of on a schedule now where, for the most part, they'll do an October sort of. But a lot of the films are all old classic horror movies, like Nosferatu.
Oh my gosh!
Tour on this movie called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which was made right around the same time. These are both early 1920, 1922 films, German films that were hugely influential in the horror genre and just in early films. So pretty neat to just kind of watch these movies too and see some of this art that's a century old. That's actually pretty incredible, for the limitations that existed back then in the imagination of those guys, And so anyway, they always write a new film and tour on that, and then usually have another one too. So we toured on those two. East Coast up to Canada, back down the Midwest, and then we'll be doing a West Coast tour in April on the same film. Yeah. So there's that. That's been kind of a big thing, and really, really enjoy that. So I'm really looking forward to that tour. And actually, with Runescarred, we have completed, I guess there was an EP and a few singles, and so now the first debut, full-length album is done and ready to release, and we released a few videos for that. At least the first single is a song called Inviting Rivers, and super straight, just metal up your ass tune.
Definitely.
And then we did a lyric video for the final track on the album, which is called Mammoth, which is kind of cool groove rock, sort of meets metal kind of vibe. It's definitely more progressive metal band than a Good Rogering. I call it eclectic rock. We're kind of all over the map. Runescarred is definitely proper metal, really, really interesting. Tim Driscoll, who writes the bulk of the material, is just super prolific and just really cool, interesting riffs and changes and key changes. But it's very musical, but very progressive and often fast at the same time. So anyway, that album's done, and I think, I don't want to I guess I shouldn't say, I think we're releasing it in February. I'm not super sure yet, but whatever the case is, we're booking some dates, and I think we're going to try to hopefully shoot for a little West Coast run, or somewhere west ourselves basically right after the Czars tour. So looks like in 2020 I'll be going out there in April and then going right back out in May.
Oh, wow. And then what about a good Rogering? What are you guys doing as far as tours? And
I know. Good Rogering is just like, where's the time? So I started, that's the cool thing about right now in December, actually having Runescarred is playing a show Thursday. We're actually opening up for Death Angel here in Austin. And so we've got that show coming up. But after that, we've got nothing on the books until I don't think we're playing until February, but I've got a couple of Good Rogering shows now booked for January, and actually I kind of had this idea for a while, so we're doing like a 10-year anniversary of when our first EP, we did our first EP, when that band sort of like was in its embryo stages, and kind of inviting some special guests up on that one, playing with some good friends of ours here in town, this band iTooth, with the guy Bleen Mott in that band was an original member of Good Rogering, as a bass player even before longtime bassist and co-founder, my brother known as the Chef, we did a lot of shows after that. But yeah, so that's going to be kind of a fun, almost reunion-esque thing in some ways, and so we got the new guys and some old guys and just da-da-da-da. So we're doing that show here in Austin. We're playing San Antonio, and then I've got a handful of songs that I basically had started recording God knows when, and then ended up kind of getting in these other projects and getting busy with the, all this other stuff. And so now it's like I've got this month is my time to pop back in the studio and finish up some stuff there. So there'll be something released in 2020 again, finally. We usually they at least put out a couple of singles, but usually the albums take a while. So, yeah, there'll be new music and touring. I don't know. We'll see what happens just once all this other stuff is finished. I really saw that Faith No More. I don't know if you're a Faith No More fan.
I have a friend who's a huge fan, so he kind of freaked out when he saw the tour, and there's nothing showing. Like, I guess there's like a couple shows in California, but it's like all in Europe or Ireland or something. Or I know Ireland was like one of the stops, but like he's like, they're not coming to the United States. What is going on? And he's like a huge fan. He's a lead singer himself, so.
It's one of those things with bands like Faith No More, and it's a very cult-ish kind of band. They had mainstream, success for a quick minute, but I think they have a very strong, loyal cult following, and a lot of the Mike Patton sort of other projects. It's a ton of them. There's a very like niche sort of loyal fan base there, and so it's been actually really interesting because they announced some Mr. Bungle shows out in San Francisco and LA and New York, and so immediately, which was like impossible to get tickets, and I was very fortunate to be able to get a few tickets for that. So I'll be out in San Francisco for that. But then I saw the Faith No More stuff's going to be happening in Europe, and now I just really want to go to England for the summer. I used to go over there, and I've got a great friend over there, and we did some recording together years ago. And so I was like, maybe this will be a good time to just go over there and work with some people over there. We'll see. I can dream big.
I know. I should after the show, I should give you my friend's information because he's a singer. He has a band out of St. Louis, Divide the Empire, and he's a huge Faith No More fan. And he's like, guess I'm going to have to jump on a plane, but you never know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. You don't know, you got some. I love it because I've met like just different people through guitar groups and Faith No More fan group, whatever, just different band kind of fan groups and stuff like that on Facebook or what have you. And I've got like really cool friends throughout the country that just kind of have that interest. And when Faith No More actually came out of, I think it had been 18 years or something when they hadn't put an album out since like 97 or something, and then they popped out in 2015 and did a tour, and I didn't know they were coming to Texas. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Screw it, I'm going." And I've got some friends and stuff in LA, so I was able to get like insane deal tickets. Got everybody a ticket, went out there, stayed with my friends. We all went and saw them out there. And then they played Austin, so I was like, "Well, okay, I'll go again. Of course, it's right here." And then it just so happened that same year, my friend that I hadn't seen for a while over in England was coming for a visit that summer, and he was like, man, we should go to New York. I've never been to New York. It had been a while since I'd been there. So I was like, cool, let's go to New York. And I very strategically made sure that was also at the same time Faith No More was playing Madison Garden. So, yeah, I ended up seeing them 3 times on that tour, and I know there's a lot of people like that that are like, screw it, I'll go wherever,
Yeah.
Like something, So, yeah, so, I mean, that's really cool and exciting. And I just saw, I don't know if you know the band Dead Cross, which is another patent thing that he's with Dave Lombardo from Slayer. And
oh, no, I don't know about that.
Yeah, kind of one of those super groups. And they're, I just saw their announcement that they're doing, working on a new record, too. So it's kind of wild. I'm curious to see how that whole thing develops. I actually saw them the first time I went out to San Francisco, which I think was last year, and I've been out there a handful of times since, and I'm just really loving the vibe out there. So I'm excited to do these West tours, and I've done been up the East Coast a few different times with a few different bands. Did it with a good Rogering, I think in 2017 after we put out the death metal EP, and but yeah, so this will be my first time going west. So pretty excited about all that.
So you're heavily immersed into the music scene itself. I hate to say the music scene. I mean, you go to a lot of shows as a fan yourself. You play in a lot of bands. Who would you say? Would you say that Mike Patton or Faith No More is one of your musical influences that helped start it all, that helped you dive into music, or who are some of your musical influences?
Yeah, there's so many, and it always grows. And I do think you have that sort of adolescent, maybe into your early 20s or mid 20s. I don't know, maybe through your 20s, you kind of influences you and find your place. And so that kind of stuff that influenced me is always just going to be my favorite. It hits me in a certain way and moves me, and it's so powerful and awesome and all that. And for me, it's all those kind of that late 80s, early 90s swing that happened in music and that big Seattle movement. So all the grunge stuff is a huge influence, or what was labeled grunge, this sort of darker shade of a little more serious brand rock, kind of coming out of the 80s. But I kind of hit it at a crossroads where I was really into, when I started playing guitar, I also was playing piano, so I always had a classical influence, and I really loved the classical composers, kind of a lot of piano sonata stuff and stuff like that. But then also kind of hit everything from the obvious Metallica, big Megadeth, thrash metal, whatever stuff in the 80s, to Guns N' Roses, to Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, Faith No More, Typo Negative is another band I love, kind of in a little more obscure, but I really like I like those bands that are kind of quirky a little bit,
Yeah.
And chances and kind of it's not always serious. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek, and I think Faith No More and Typo Negative kind of share that, And then you got the more extremes like Mr. Bungle and Frank Zappa, which is definitely it takes a little more time to sort of absorb and get into. But, yeah, so I like everything from the really outlandish and ridiculous to, there's a lot of pop I like. In recent years, I've gotten a lot more into jazz stuff, so a lot of times I just listen to jazz radio or everything from Soul Train to Thelonious Monk. I really like Bill Evans. I really like a lot of jazz pianists and stuff like that too. So it's kind of all over the map. There are definitely some things I think suck, but I won't state those opinions. I'll just say what I like.
Okay. So you yourself, you do everything as a musician too. You sing, you write, what instruments do you play? You said you play the piano, guitar. Do you basically play everything? What do you?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I can kind of fiddle around with things with strings on them. So when you play guitar, you can usually kind of you can kind of play at least some bass, and you can play. I can fiddle around on a ukulele or a banjo a little bit or something, but I definitely wouldn't claim to play those instruments, But then, you know, so for me, it's piano, and as a music teacher also, that's like such a central instrument. It's very visual and easy to just sort of relay, like, the basic fundamentals of music in the beginning. And so I think it's a really great instrument for anyone playing anything to start on, because you can, like, see it visually.
Right.
Go, oh, this is this, and I see the relationship, and that makes sense, as opposed to something with a stringed instrument or a horn or something. It's like, you know, you need to put that on paper. There's no, like, relative way that maybe, you know, it's more
Right.
patterns and memorizations in terms of, like, a visual layout or something. So I think the piano for me, like, just, it's like that centerpiece of music theory and stuff like that. And whenever you have that, you know, learning any other instrument is a lot easier, because you sort of already know the language. You're just applying it to a different instrument. It's like, oh, well, I just need to learn how I do these scales on this thing. And so for me, it's like those kind of instruments, like I said, strings and stuff, it's not a big deal, because it's like you just sort of figure out the layout, and you're like, okay, so then this is this chord now, and this is this. And of course, you have to practice it a ton to get good, but I at least can understand it relatively quick. Whereas like a horn or something or a woodwind, I'm like, I have no clue, because you got to do stuff with your mouth and breathing and all these things. I have no, you know, I don't play those kind of instruments. So, but I've always, like, if anything, if I ever take up any other instrument, it'd probably be like trumpet, because I just love, or like it'd be like a brass trumpet or French horn or something. I don't know. I don't.
So did you start out playing piano? Was that the first instrument, or was it like a guitar?
No, when I was like a kid, I vaguely remember like taking a couple of piano lessons or something, but I don't think we had a piano, so it was like really strange. I can't, I don't know. And then I remember about the time I started high school, maybe like right before then, I really started getting like into music, like on my own, like really discovering things. And like I did a whole podcast with this guy over in England called Mike Norris. It's like, I think it's called My Favorite Album or something. It is this cool podcast where you just pick an album and you discuss this album, and he like really does his research and knows a lot of stuff about music and this. And so we talked about, the one I chose was Appetite for Destruction, which is impossible to pick a favorite band or a favorite album or a favorite guitar player for me. But the reason I chose that was because I feel like there was when I heard that, and that first is like kind of that impressionable kid, when I was like an 80s kid, and it was like, you know, back then, like the things that are laughable now, like it's, you know, Iron Maiden was satanic and metallic, oh my God, and it's,
right.
every time someone died, it was a metal band's fault, and
yeah.
all this ridiculous, and Satan this and Satan that and all this silly thing. And so I thought everybody was satanic, and, you know, you're just whatever the other kids in the school were listening to was what I was listening to. I mean, I was lucky enough that my parents had like a basic classic rock collection, so I got enough of the Beatles and the Doors and Fleetwood Mac and those kind of things that I was like not completely naive, you know. It's like, okay,
right,
and
right.
I love all of that. I don't know how you can't like that stuff and the Beatles, and it's baffling when, I mean, maybe you're one of these people, I don't know, but when people are like, oh, I don't like the Beatles, I'm just like, what? Like, I don't understand that. Like, how can you not? I don't get it. But, so all that stuff I love. I'm digressing here. Where were we?
I wondered what you started out with. If you started out with, you said you. Oh, no, you did. You did. You said you started. You know, clear back when you remember when you were a kid, you started with piano.
So Guns N' Roses was what did it though. Like that was that specific album was like I heard it and I was like, oh, is this heavy metal? What is this? And then I started like listening to it. I mean, this was like a few years like after it had come out even, but you know, and it had gotten really popular. I got obsessed with it, and I was like, wow, I want to play guitar. And so then when I really got that musical bug and started discovering all the sort of the rock bands of the day and everything, it's like I started playing guitar, and then I started like legitimately taking piano lessons at that time. And so for me, like it helped a lot with guitar too, because a lot of things that I was learning on the guitar, but kind of not from a theoretical standpoint quite understanding. I could look at the piano and be like, oh, I see, I get this, you know?
Right.
So it was kind of simultaneous with those two instruments, but I would say piano would probably been just a hair first, you know, learning the basics on that. And then I'm an aspiring drummer, like probably everyone who's not a real drummer, you know. So around on those a bit too. And then the singing is, you know, I yell and scream and sing and all that stuff. So I mean that's my wheelhouse. Like I can fiddle around on some other things, but those are the primary things I do.
What's your favorite? If you had to pick only one, what is your favorite thing to do? I mean, is your favorite thing to sing? Is your favorite thing to play the guitar? What would you say if you could pick?
Yeah, it's definitely not singing. Like, it's a weird thing with singing. It's taken me years and years and years to get, like, a level of confidence with it. And I feel like a lot of times, usually when I'm on stage, I'm very comfortable, actually. But if someone's like, oh, sing me a song, and I'm not one of those guys that's like, let me take up a guitar and sing you my song, you know. I'm like, I'm real vulnerable and sort of like, you know, like it's real easy to be in your head. Like, vocals is a strange instrument because with anything else, it's like you can usually get something down. It's like, okay, I can either do this or I can't yet, you know. And with vocals, it's so like inside of you and intimate, and there's a lot of factors, I think, to like a vocal performance, you know, because there's the technical factors. I mean, maybe you could say, I guess, the, you know, natural, you know, talent factor, which I think if any instrument, I think it exists in vocals more than anything. Because, I mean, I've seen some people just like, holy Christ, you know, they just sound amazing. And then other people can't, you know, tell the difference. You know, they can't even, you're like, oh, sing, da-da-da-da-da, and they're like, da-da-da-da-da, you know. So it's definitely a more inherent thing. I think a lot more in my professional experience with teaching hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, like, it's really, really rare to come across someone who doesn't have rhythm. There are people that struggle, like, and it's kind of like, wow, you know, like it's the hardest freaking thing to teach if someone can't like snap their finger and, you know what I mean?
Right.
But then there's a lot more that I think have like the ability to do anything that I do or so many other people do. It's just a matter of practice, you know?
Right.
And just like with anything, just doing it and being serious about it. And but vocal seems to me, I mean, I'm not a professionally trained singer, but it definitely, I think there's like a few more elements maybe involved in that instrument. So it's something I'm always experimenting with and learning, and sometimes I feel really confident and good, and other times I just want to crawl in a hole and die, and it's, you know, that's my take on my vocals. As far as the other instruments go, it's a really good question, and I think, you know, it's probably whatever I'm playing the least, like, because I don't really play drums a lot, so when I get on drums, I just, like, it's so fun, you know? So I just love doing it. But maybe if I was, like, gigging all the time and it was, like, my job, I might be like, I don't want to play drums right now. And I think, like, sometimes I think maybe I feel like that with other stuff, if it's, like, because I'm all doing a lot of times, like, learning material and preparing for a gig, or not to say that it's not fun to still play, but you know what I mean? It's a little different. It's like a job a lot of times, you know, now.
Right.
So more, you know, so I can't really choose between piano and guitar, but I think the instrument for me that if I'm just like really, that's a tough question. I guess I'd maybe pick piano if I just had like one thing to play for the rest of my life, but that's pretty tough. And it's actually really nice because then if you're kind of earned on one or you're plateauing, you can jump on the other one, and sometimes it gets like this whole fresh new perspective and vibe. So I've done that a lot in the past where I'll just not even touch a piano for 6 months, and then all of a sudden I get obsessed with it again, you know, and kind of just bounce around.
Well, and that was actually going to be one of my questions. I mean, it's kind of nice because do you ever, since you've toured frequently with different bands, I mean, like I said, immersed in music, do you ever get up on stage? Do you always love what you do? Or are those days when you get up on stage, no matter what the band it is or what you're doing, where you're like, you feel like it's a job? Because I talked to a band, and, you know, they're like, you know, we've been doing this for years. When do we stop? You know, when do we quit? And I was like, when it feels like it's a job to you, you know, just do it because you love it. Do it because you get up on that stage and you have that adrenaline, and, you know, you want to do it no matter if there's one person out there to see you or a million people out there to see you. As long as you love it, that's what matters. So do you ever get up there and feel like, oh, this again? Or is it such a brand new experience every single time you go out there still?
I mean, I think it's both. Like, that's a great question because, I mean, there is so much behind-the-scenes stuff that is like just a grind and a job, and then you almost like forget about the music and become obsessed with other things, and you just drive yourself crazy with a bunch of shit, especially if you don't have a team of people to do it all, you know. So sometimes the music, it sadly almost becomes an afterthought and secondary, and you're like, oh God, I gotta pray, you know. So for me, that's just bad time management or something, though. And then you're going, oh God, I gotta like woodshed for this, and you're stressed out or whatever. But I'm almost always like, you know, I enjoy being on stage, though. That's the thing. It's like no matter what, like I pretty much always love performing. The only time the performance is stressful, or I'm sort of like not, quote, lost in the moment, is if there's like technical issues.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, these are things there's always going to be something almost. And so you kind of learn to play through it. And so sometimes you're able to, like, things sound great. I mean, the perfect scenario, you're prepared. You sound great. You know what I mean? Like the room, the bar sounds great or whatever, and your gear, everything's working and sounds good, and there's people there and everyone's into it, and that's like the perfect storm, and it's just like this real awesome energy that makes it what you want it to be. And there's other times where everything's wrong and you're playing to one person and it's just a disaster, but I think that there's something to be learned from that too, and it sounds kind of cliche, and I sometimes I say this like almost like, do you really believe that? But then I do say this a lot where I'm like, man, I've had so many gigs where there's like terrible sound and this didn't work and nobody was there and you feel like nobody cares and why are you doing this? You don't make money. And then you meet one person who was like, wow, that was awesome, and you become friends with them, and then you meet someone else, or that, you know, so there's all these. I definitely think there's something to be said for that, because if you can't deal with that, you're in the wrong business. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
I mean, those are all the things that every band that's ever spoken to me in the past 2 years have talked about, you know. Those are things that everybody goes through, and everyone says that. I mean, definitely, I agree.
So you do your best to, you know, play the nice venue, you know, get people in the door, have everything wired tight and sounding good, but oftentimes that's not going to be the case, and I think the great bands are the ones that are still going to give you a great show either way. You know, and I mean, I've always, I think, prided a good rogering in that aspect. Like, even though I've discovered more and more as I go along in my life too, I'm like, wow, you know what? I'm like insanely ADD. Wow, this is where a lot of my problems come from. But like, and so like, I know like I stress people out and I stress myself out because I'll be like bouncing all over the place, a new idea at the 11th hour and this and that, and that's all stressful and whatever. But like, a lot of times, what I think makes, or at least for me, and a lot of compliments I've gotten, a good rogering, cool and fun, at least from a live standpoint, is like is that sort of spontaneity, you know, and it doesn't matter. Like if it's on a big stage in front of a big crowd, like I'm like jazzed and that's badass, and like I mean, yeah, there's no better feeling. But even in a small club, like one time we're playing a show. This is like a show I think of as an example, kind of back to your question. It was a show in San Antonio. It was like 5 bands. The bar didn't even have a sign outside. The sound was horrific. Everything was feeding back. The promoter, everything was a disaster. Like no promotion. Horrible, horrible, horrible show. And we start out, and there's like a guy trying to raffle tickets, and he's like standing in front of my pedal board, so I can't even get to my gear to plug in to do a sound check. And I mean, anyway, we just start going. I was like, you know what, screw it. I won't even play guitar right now. And I just started singing. I was like rolling around on the stage and doing weird stuff and, you know, kind of acting out a bit, but it, you know, in a performance way.
Right.
And then I pick up my guitar, you know, for the next song or whatever and start jamming. But, you know, we gave whatever 15 or whoever people were there, we gave them a show. And there was a lot of things going on. There was a lot surrounding that show. Like every single thing sucked, like internally, externally, everything. And I kind of just got off stage, and I didn't want to be, you know, a big baby about it and just leave. So I sucked it up, and I made no money. I lost money. I didn't sell any merch. I mean, it was just like the only show, like in the last few years, I think, that I've like probably like literally made not a dime, you know. And I don't even mean like net. I mean just like nothing to even like go in to pay out, you know.
Right, right.
So it was a colossal disaster. But like I hung out, and like I was one of the only people that kind of like hung out. And the last band that played was freaking awesome. I became friends with them. We traded shirts. I met another girl that was kind of hanging out, maybe friends with them and her little crew. And then that actually led to me getting a keyboard that I have now because she referred me to someone that was selling a keyboard for real cheap. And they, you know, has been out to several shows, and we played shows with that other band. So even in that worst moment, like, there was like this kind of cool silver lining. And so back to that point of like, I think you have to be able to appreciate those moments and find those moments and let those moments happen, because not everything is going to be that awesome, at least not for me, people, Most of the time when you're doing the rock and roll stuff, you're down in the trenches,
Yeah, and sometimes I don't think a lot of, fans realize that how much bands go through just to do a show. It's not as simple as showing up, but, and of course I'm not talking about, nationals and things like that, but indie or underground bands or whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to say that, like, I try to specialize in, the bands that don't have the national attention and, the millions of dollars to spend and things like that.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot. There's a lot that goes. And I tell my friends who have no clue, and they're like, whoa, we didn't know it was like that,
Well, either way, it's a ton of work. The only difference is like with the Nationals, I mean, they've got the money coming in to like hire, and
right.
You have stage managers and set design. You have people building and transportation and hotels and these are all kind of just terms until you deal with any of it or even like get an inkling of an idea of what's going on. They're like, oh yeah, well, shit, I understand why all these things exist, and
right.
That's like huge bucks. So when you're like, oh wow, this band made millions. I mean, yeah, they did. I'm sure they netted millions, but they also paid like probably millions.
Right.
Out, So it just goes up and up, and the bigger you get, the more, labor you have to have and all that. But like, yeah, even on a small level though, I think that's where the thing is like, even if it's just a band, quote, strolling in and playing a show at a bar, it's like, well, yeah, but there was rehearsals. They had to load up their gear and drive there. And if you do a tour, like, that's a lot of work. Like, it's fun. I love it. But, yeah, you're like, you drive somewhere, you unload everything, you set it up, you sound check. Bizarre's tour was cool because we actually would do that. And, well, it was different. Like, sometimes it was like you get 45 minutes to try to get set up and people are coming in the theater and we're like, changing clothes in the bathroom, and like barely sound. I mean, it's stressful. And other times you're like, cool, we got this nice time of window, we can unload, we get a sound check, and then we can like eat and chill out for a while. But it's kind of different. Every venue's different. There's, different elements. So, that's like you load out or, load in, set up, sound check. A lot of times you're just waiting around after that. Then you play, then you load out, then you drive somewhere, then you go to a hotel. It's like, it's a ton of work.
Yeah.
I don't think, like, it sounds, I think the cliche thing is just, and when you're young, and if you can, like, just do it, like, that's awesome. Like, yeah, let's just get in the band and, like, go play some shows and have fun, and who cares about anything. But as a business,
right.
It's like, it's a lot of work, and it's easy to, like, drink and, whatever on the road. I think, if you've done it a while and stuff, or you're older and you got stuff going on, you're not looking to get smashed every night. But it's, that's the point is not the whole like, oh man, that sounds fun. It's like, well, yeah, but it's still like a job. Like you're still working like a lot, like, every day,
Right.
But I wouldn't trade it, as long as I'm enjoying doing it, and you kind of back to what you were talking about earlier. I mean, when the performance is actually happening, it's like, especially when the group, and I think that's such an important thing, like, beyond the crowd, because like it kind of feeds off that. Sometimes you just maybe can't win a crowd, but I think the crowd can feel and that's the most fun I have on stage is if I'm just feeling it in my own self, or if I'm with a group and everyone on stage is kind of in it to win it together, and you kind of looking at each other, and you're just all feeling like, yeah, we're in this, like, we're all in the same place right now. We're feeling this music and we're killing it, And if that's happening, it's super, super fun. And if it's not, you're kind of like, okay, we'll get through this.
Oh, right. And you're right that the fans can feel it. Because, there's been sets where I've seen, sad to say, bands just want to hurry up and get through it and get off stage and go. And there's ones where you just are drawn into the amount of energy the band has and what they're doing, and you're vibing it. And, it clearly comes through. You may not have a clue who that band was before, but when you see that going on, it's going to catch your eye and catch your heart. And, there's no way not to notice it, even if they're not, like, into the style of music that you're doing.
Well, and in my mind, and I'll say this, and I believe this, like, and that's I guess it syncs up with sort of the difference between, thinking through something and then feeling, like actually performing as opposed to thinking. And in order to do that, you have to be very well practiced and acclimated. And that's important. Like, that's why touring is great, because you do the same thing over and over and you start getting really good at it and really comfortable with it, And it's hard to kind of make that happen if you're popping out every couple of months. And I mean, it can be done. And I've had those moments where, like I said, but sometimes it's something fresh and new, and it's just explodes, and it's amazing. And other times, it might be you're stumbling around a bit, but then you're on the road. And by the end, it was like when A Good Rogering got back from tour, and we weren't even rehearsing at all, and we would just do a rehearsal for a show, and it might have been weeks or a month, and people would be like, "Oh, we're so tight," and I'm like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess we had toured, and we just everyone's just cool, yeah, we know these songs, we've done this a bunch, and we just kind of blow the dust off." I'm like, "Yep, good, cool." So I think it's important for a band to it takes time to get to that place. I think for any band, and that's one thing that separates long-term amazing bands, and whether it's Metallica or the Red Hot Chili Peppers or whatever. Regardless of, sometimes you may like some of their music or not some of it, or all of it, or may like or dislike all of it, but you can't deny certain bands. You're like, wow, they're great live,
right?
Because they've done it for so long, and they're so good at what they do, at their craft. And I think there's a thing back to I was saying about art, where in my mind it's the same way. Things are very subjective, but I also think that a lot of stuff that is, in my mind, crap is crap because it's contrived. And it's just put together for, and to market to a demographic to make money. And
of course, definitely.
Fine, okay, but if we're talking about real art, whether it's the creation of something or the performance of an artist, there's a weird intangible, I think, that actually can happen where it's just you can tell when something is authentic and real. And that's the main thing that, that's beyond, that's more important to me than anything else. For me, I hope, in whatever I do, and I would like to think that maybe that's one of my better qualities as a performer, even if I'm a bit messy, is that it's genuine. I'm not faking anything for
right.
you. I'm being honest when I'm on stage, and so that to me, I think, is back to that kind of intangible thing where you can just get a room of people that really feel something together because the person sort of spearheading that, the artist or whoever on stage, is coming from a genuine place,
Most definitely. I mean, that takes me, and I think I don't know if we talked about this before, but, that takes you back to MTV Unplugged, and, you have Alice in Chains on there, and, Lane messes up, and, that's such a classic moment because everything was natural, and it wasn't forced, yeah. And it happened, and it was okay that it happened, and all of it was just, I don't know, there was an innocence about it, the whole performance, and my favorite one for MTV Unplugged is that one, but there's a certain innocence and a certain genuineness, you can tell, you can definitely tell.
Yeah, and that's why sometimes those wavy notes, those slightly pitchy notes, are on the guitar, so you get a little noise or that's great. Keep it. That's something honest, that happened that used to always be recorded. There was no other way to do it.
Right.
We live in a world now where I'm guilty too. I mean, we all do it. We all go and put everything on the microscope and just make everything perfect. But you've got certain genres of music, the big, pop industry, whatever the genre is, at the top of all that. Which often is just some of the worst things dubbed music I've ever. Okay, I can't. I try. I've been I'm gonna sit down and try to just give this a chance, and I'm like, no, this is fucking shit. It's all auto and robots and everything is just this sterile, absurd. I don't know what it is, and I'm not saying things have to sound like 1970 Black Sabbath. Sure, it can be modern, it can be tight. It's weird to me when things are just robotically soulless. I mean, with the exception of a dance music or something, I can get I understand that,
Right.
But if the intent is to actually sing me a song. Well, then sing a fucking song. Like, you know, like I don't want to hear a robot sing a song. You know, like where does it come? Well, who are you? You're nobody. You're a face that someone wrote this shit for. You know, and so you can show me how to. I don't know. It's just like irritating, and I love the honesty. Like it actually makes me happy when I see, selfishly, when I see like. You know, like professional bands fuck up, because I'm just like,
of course,
yes, you too, okay, awesome, you too. And like I think like Dweezil Zappa had like a technical problem at a show, and I was just like, and he handled it like a pro, but you could tell, and I was like, oh, thank God, even like the best, you know, and like I forget who I've seen this happen to Alice in Chains more than not to dog them because they're flawless, but you know, a string breaks on a guitar, or like one time, you know, Sean Kinney like accidentally started the wrong song, or you know, and or I saw OC and a guy forgot to tune his guitar, and it's like, oh yes. So it's like there's something like, and I think the audience, you know, there's something cool about that, you know, and like Faith No More, one of my all-time favorite bands, Patton, one of the greatest singers of all time. Like it's like I joke about this with my girlfriend. There's a song that we call cover acoustically called "From the Dead," which is the last track on the last album they released. And I remember when I saw them in L.A., the album hadn't even come out yet. They had just started the tour. And they closed with that song, and they're notorious for kind of doing, you know, very random, or not random, but like very different from the rock style stuff. Like they'll do Burt Bacharach covers or the Bee Gees or, you know, Lionel Richie and this kind of stuff. And so like they were playing this song. I was like, oh, this must be some cover. So it was just like this acoustic-y thing. And then the record came out, I was like, oh, it's that. So anyway, there's a YouTube video where they played it on tour, and you can tell they're just like bullshitting through the song, and like Patton's like looking around, like doesn't know what the lyrics are, and they're just like laughing, and you know, it's just, you're in the moment though, and you're just like, hell yeah, this is awesome. You don't give a shit, you know, it's cool.
Right. Most definitely, and that's what I think it is. There's an innocence about all of it to know that they're real, because I do agree. A lot of the pop music and rap music, and there's some pop music I like, and there's some older rap I like. Not a lot of it now, but
no,
it is. Yeah, me too. But it's very. It just seems. Like you said, it doesn't seem as genuine as what we've seen before with rock music that's out. And I think that's, like, I'm just going to use Bad Flower as an example. I've watched them throughout the years, like, start out, and I've watched them progress throughout the time. And to go to a show, it's a very eclectic mix of people at the shows. You see super young kids. I mean, you see teenagers. You see people my age. You see older people. I mean, everybody's at the show. But I think the thing that's drawing everybody that Josh Katz has, that a lot of, you know, singers out there, they just don't have, is he can make people feel. And I think Eddie Vedder's somebody that had that too. I kind of joke around and say nobody knows the lyrics to Yellow Ledbetter because, you know, there's misheard lyrics on it and everything. Yeah, right. But you felt whatever the hell it was he's talking about, you felt his lyrics. And I think that's the most important thing, especially for me. Like, when I can feel it, like, feel something. Doesn't matter if it's a sadness, happiness. It doesn't matter. Amped up. Doesn't matter. When you feel that's it. I'm done. I'm in. I'm all in. So I need that. I need that as a person.
Absolutely. And that's why those artists, like that stuff, like whether we're talking Beethoven or we're talking, you know, something from the 90s or now, those things are going to last. They're not fleeting, because people are going to hear that, and there's an inherent, you know, group of people that are going to be like, oh, wow, holy shit, this is really, you know, this is hitting me, you know, as opposed to like, yeah, I feel cool because I'm playing this because it's what I'm trained to listen to at the moment. Or I don't know. I have a hard time with all this, and I don't want to like sound like super negative and all that, but like it's as a musician, you know, and I'm not God's great gift to anything. I'm not like some genius virtuoso. I'm like, you know, a guy that plays some instruments, okay. But it just fucking pisses me off when there's people like with just zero Like, they can't play a note on an instrument. They can't sing. They can't do anything. And they're referred to as geniuses. It's baffling.
Definitely. Yeah, I know. I agree.
I don't understand, like, what the fuck is happening in our culture. Like, what in the hell is going on, man? Like, I have tried. I mean, I'm a pretty open-minded, objective person, and, like, I'm just watching, like, guys flashing around money going, yeah, another one, and I'm going, no, dude, fuck, no. Like, I have seen nothing that screams remote talent, let alone genius, you know? So, right. I don't know. I'm waiting for somebody. Maybe someone will hear this interview, and they'll contact me, and they can try to prove to me why that's genius. Good luck.
Because you know what it all is about? It's about the demographic, like you said. They're feeding into the demographic of people that may not be such independent thinkers, and they're wooed by the shiny and bright colors easier than they are the real art of music itself. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it's sort of like, you know, I guess it's in a weird way getting into the same psyche we were talking about, where you're feeling something, but I feel like the feeling is coming from a place of, like, I've been told to feel this way because I don't know, you know, it's not like I'm not genuinely feeling something. I'm feeling like, yeah, this is cool because yeah, everyone's a billion YouTube hits says it's cool or something, you know? Right,
of course, yes, definitely. And, you know, I don't want to, you know, like you said, I don't want to keep dragging out and being negative, but I've actually been to a show before, and it was a Plotting You show, and I actually heard the kids around me say, they were talking about Facebook numbers, and they're like, oh, have you heard so-and-so band? And I couldn't hear everything they were saying, but they're like, no, I don't listen to them. They only have so ever many likes. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Who cares if they have 2 likes on Facebook or 2 million? A good band is a good band, and that's just insanity. And I know there's promoters out there that
matter, but it does matter. And I've been, you know, I hate to say it, mildly swindled. I haven't, you know, fortunately pissed away thousands of dollars on, I mean, maybe over time and all the accumulation of all the bullshit, because there's so many bullshit sites and so many, I mean, we know the big social media sites, and they serve a purpose, and I mean, okay, and the numbers matter, but so many numbers are bought, and like, in my mind, I'm like, I feel like we're living in, like, it's just a porno culture where it's like, look, feel good immediately, and that's all that matters, you know, it's like, look at me and how sexy I am, and yay, I love you. And that's literally the response. I love you, I love you, I love you. Really? You love a person because they're wearing a bikini right now. Like, yeah, I like an attractive woman like more as much as anyone else. But, like, really? Like, whereas, like, someone's like, here's my heart and soul on a platter, and it's like, boring.
I know, and I've seen that.
I have 2 likes. I don't give a shit about you. And so, yeah, it's like all these bullshit-ass fucking numbers and all this paid-for stuff. And so I have these predators out there that are preying on everyone else to buy stuff. And as I say this, you know, I put money into advertising for what fucking purpose I don't know, probably, you know, so someone would look and go, oh, I guess this is cool because a few thousand people give a shit, you know. But, I mean, I've seen this over and over and over, and, like, it's just such a
yeah, but you're advertising for yourself. You don't have to have a sexy chick to advertise your music, or you know, put her in a video and like have that to be the way you advertise. I mean, I'm sure you're authentically advertising, like, hey, this is my music. Hey, this is you know, that's a whole nother thing.
And to be fair, like in the 80s MTV stuff, you know, maybe the little white guy going, rap, but I mean, it was the same kind of like, it was the same, they were doing the same thing with the cheeseball glam rock in the 80s. And then they just, you know, said, okay, this is on its way out. And then the powers that be, the, you know, whatever, the corporate fat cats that make all the decisions for us, like, went, nope, now this is going to be the mainstream thing. And all you fuckers can go play dive bars for the rest of your life, you know. But, like, I mean, I'm over-exaggerating, but in a way, it's like that's how it feels. And it's like, so they were still doing the same thing. Sex sells, it always will, you know, it has always will. That's okay. But I feel like you know, it seems to me like once upon a time, like, didn't there have to be something that at least went with it? Didn't you have to at least be like, oh, and by the way, here's that delicious Coca-Cola, or here's an awesome guitar solo. Now it's just like, tits. Yeah, oh man, cool, you know, like, whoa, it's got a lot of hits and there's tits in it, I like it, you know, so I don't know. I'm rambling. What happened?
You're not. I completely agree.
I was so professional for a minute, I thought.
No, I really do completely agree. Because I see it.
This is my whole point. I'm being real with you right now. I'm not telling you what I think is going to make me sound like a cool rock star. I'm fucking being honest, you know?
Right. No, I completely agree. So I do have a question. I know you told me like who some of your influences were. If we'll just say two. If two bands called you right now and they're like, okay, jump and go on tour with us with any of our bands, who would you jump at the chance to go on tour? Any band from the past, present, whatever have you, genre, subgenre, it doesn't matter. Who would you like jump on that chance to go on tour with?
Well, I guess this is a little bit easier, assuming it's got to be people that are alive. So we'll just say it needs to be, because if it's not, then it's just way too hard.
Okay.
Because, I mean, like, I always, like, if I do an interview, I'm like, oh, I didn't mention Pink Floyd, and I love them too. You know, it's like I like all these different bands. But, I mean, coming back to the whole, you know, Faith No More, it's just been one of those things from when I was a teenager. It's been, like, one of the biggest influences in so many ways for me. And I resonate with the music, and it's had an influence on how I write and all these things. So that would be one for sure. You know, I think Alice in Chains would be freaking amazing. And I've kind of gone, you know, like, we've been kind of all over with the Good Rogering in terms of kind of metal and kind of weird and goofy, and a classical piano thing here and a funk tune about a cat here, and you know, all in a death metal parody, and all these kind of different things. And the latest single now is very just straightforward, early 90s grunge sounding kind of Alice in Chains vibe. So you can be like, oh, cool, I like this because this is like, yeah, I like that kind of music, or fuck this guy, said I like Alice in Chains. It's up to you, you know. But like, I mean, it's, you know, that's a part of like a huge influence to me too. So I'll just say those two. There's like a zillion other bands, but I'll say those two.
So you are, for the rest of the year leading into 2020, you are all over the board. You have basically 3 tours going on. Well, 2 tours and already scheduled with a Good Rogering. Or did you say you have 3 tours going on in 2020?
Oh, yeah, I'll give the rundown. So Good Rogering is just going to pop out. We're going to do like a 10-year anniversary show for our first EP in January. And I'm thinking about maybe doing like this limited edition sort of like release of like a re-release of like that EP with maybe some bonus tracks or something. So if that happens, people heard it here first. If it doesn't, sorry.
Okay.
There's that. Yeah. So that's kind of what's going on with that. And then just actually this month, fixing, like the main thing this month is like tying up a few projects that I've been working on. And then like some more production wise. And then just tracking some vocals to some songs. I've actually got another song that's like completely a whole different animal also. It's like not a Good Rogering or anything that I think is going to probably put that out next year too. So Good Rogering is more about some studio stuff right now and over the next few months. And then the Runescarred album should be out, I think in February. And so we're kind of starting to book just February, March, some regional stuff like that. And then looking after the Invincible Czars go on tour in April, then that'll be followed up with a slew of dates by Runescarred. At least that's the plan. Summer after that, I hope I maybe go to Europe or something, or I don't know. That's what I would love to do, to go, at least go back over to England and catch Faith No More and hang out and maybe play a show over there. And someone I didn't mention earlier who I just did a live album recording with, this dude from Spain, Bull Diego, his band Bully Los Bufalos, is more straightforward rock and roll, ZZ Top, Elvis, with a Latin twist, kind of, you know what I mean? Like ACDC,
yeah.
Like kind of more straightforward, just like kind of rock and roll. So he's just kind of exploded. I mean, he was from Spain. Then he, I think, went, I don't know if he came here first or went to Mexico, and then he's been in Austin, bouncing between like here in LA and stuff. And I had done some tracks with him a year or two back, kind of over the last couple of years. Played a title track on one of his albums, and then a couple of singles. So then we ended up shooting a video. Long story short, I became his guitar player. And he recently got picked up with, or you know the show The Mayans? It's like a spinoff of Sons of Anarchy, and I guess you probably know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this TV show, The Mayans, so he's got some songs featured in that show. So that's been super cool. Fingers crossed, if everything goes great, like maybe we'll get to go be in an episode. Who knows? That would be
super cool.
That would be super cool. Anyway, so we just did a live album recording here in Austin, and I think that's going to come out in January. Don't quote me on any of this, but I think the idea is maybe that'll come out around then, and we're going out to the big NAMM convention, which I've been doing for years with various companies. But this will be the first time through his deal. He's got a deal with Gibson Guitars, so we're actually performing at the Gibson Guitars booth out there in January. So I'll be out in L.A. for that next month, so that'll be fun.
A lot going on, Skunk. A lot going on. I don't know.
I know it's confusing.
I don't know how you keep up with all of that. How do you keep up with it? You must have like a shit ton of energy for all of it.
No, it's my ADD brain. It's my best friend and my worst enemy all at once, because it's like I love it. I love all these different projects because they're all totally different. Like that's what I like about it. Runescarred is like metal, and it's very technical and it's very challenging. And it's that energy on stage, and it's just it's awesome. And then the Czars is this whole different, you're writing to a film. It's much more sensibilities of the classical mindset and the conductor, and this kind of sort of, it's a super, super departure, obviously, from metal and rock.
Oh, yeah.
Straight rock and roll. Got a lot of cool things going on there. So. And then A Good Rogering is my brainchild, which is just, I guess, representative of myself, just a huge mess.
So let's narrow all down to you as a musician. Do you have a musician page, or do you have social media that you can share with me to promote yourself as a musician, that you share stuff from all of your projects that you have, all your bands, all your projects, everything that you have, that everybody can check you out, check out any merch that anybody has? So plug yourself with all of it.
Okay, yeah, and there's even more. Those are the 4 active bands.
Oh, holy cow!
No, the other stuff is like really off the wall, like chauvinistic German douchebags, or an old blues singer, like stuff like that. Yeah, like alter egos and stuff.
Okay.
It gets go rabbit hole and get a little weird, but so actually I have skunkmanhattan.com is the place you can go to, which my upkeep kind of sucks, but I think there's like some way to sync dates. So sometimes, like whenever I did that tour and I had like 4, I had all the dates listed from all the bands and everything, and it's just maintenance. I got to go, create events on Facebook and then do them some other sites so they link to my website and all this kind of stuff. But basically it's a hub, and if you go to my social media, like my Facebook, I'm pretty much advertising it, all. And so that's a good way. And now I think on my Instagram, Skunk Manhattan and my website and my, I don't have all the links to the other band sites on my website. I need to update that. But usually on my Facebook and everything, and I think I've got all 4 websites of the bands we talked about on my Instagram and stuff like that. So it's a quick way people can kind of see projects I'm involved with. And I don't know. I haven't figured out Twitter. I don't know what the trick with that is. I don't know if you have to be a vociferous president or how that works. I can't get anything. I don't think my Twitter numbers have changed for 10 years, but yeah, so I'm most active on Facebook. I do a little bit of Instagram, but I think I'm going to have to start dressing, more sexy to get more likes or something. We'll see.
You have described every single social platform in its entirety with perfection when you say all that, but you are correct with all of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the same old shit everybody uses now. There's some other sites that I think and I say this maybe ignorantly because I don't use, but I'm on stuff like Reverb Nation and SoundCloud, but I don't really use those sites. It's just after a while, it's daunting how much stuff there is. So I really focus I guess I'm old school. I'm a Facebook guy, and I can even remember back in the MySpace days, someone once described MySpace to me as like an abandoned amusement park. It was like such a great metaphor of just like Astro World all covered with trees. It was like used to this like fun, wonderful, magical place. Now it's just like, ugh, what is that? Like pirates infested shithole. But like, yeah, so I even remember when Facebook was new because, man, when I started playing and stuff, there's none of this stuff,
Yeah.
And now it's like that's the key to the highway. All that shit, like we were talking about. I mean, I think the landscape has changed. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying bands shouldn't go out and play. I love playing, but I've gotten to a place where I just feel like it needs to make sense. I can't just the model of like go hit it, and DIY. Like I'm sure there's some guys out there that are doing it, and more power to them. Like that's amazing. But it certainly I don't think is the way where it used to be, where it was like you go grind it out and you jump in your van and you start hitting everybody, and then you get a buzz, and then an A&R guy sees you, and next thing you know you're signing and all that kind of shit. But nowadays it's like, how
you are
can
correct.
I manipulate social media numbers in a way to bring enough attention my way? Because everyone wants everything done already. It's like we want an album, we want you to have all these things. Oh, great, his numbers look great. Cool, now we'll work with you. It's what I'm seeing, but I'm assuming,
I see all of that, yeah.
So it's kind of that double-edged sword. So you kind of play that game, but then you hate yourself for doing it, and you go, so I think it's a balance, and like everything in life, like I think if you can balance it and still be true to your music and play your music and figure out ways like we talked about to keep it fun and like enjoy it while you're doing it, but also like know that yes, there is an ever-changing, messy, corrupt, God knows what's going on business model that, everyone's just like a rat in a cage running around, and just kind of like accept that shitty side of it. And if you can figure that out, then more power to you, I guess, but that's, I think the notion of like, I'm just going to go play it because my songs are good, something's going to come of it is, fortunately, now more than ever, perhaps a huge misnomer,
I tell that to bands every day. I talk to a lot of bands, and we talk about that kind of stuff, every day. It just doesn't happen like that. Maybe 25, 30 years ago, sure, that was something you would maybe see happen, but that's not how it works today. So definitely, I agree completely. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and definitely doesn't have to be a year. Come back again. Keep me updated on all the projects so I can share them, and I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Well, I'm wondering if this was informative or I just came off like an angry white guy. I don't know.
Maybe we sounded like a bunch of old fogies talking about back in my day. Boomers. Could be. Oh well, that's okay. We can be the boomers.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's been great chatting again, and I hope some people. I will be advertising yourself. You're so great, and Rock Rage and everything. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate what you do, and
thank you.
Hopefully some people go, I'll check this angry bastard out and see what he's all about.
Well, I'm sure they will. Well, thank you, Skunk. You have a good night.
All right, you too. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.